Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to bring the debate back to the bill that is before us and to get out of the realm of fantasies and the realm of dog whistling and the realm of theatrics, we come back here today, Madam Speaker, through you, to focus on what is before this House, the Finance Bill of 2021. And after all of the drama and the theatrics and focus on this and focus on that, to come down, I'm here, Madam Speaker, to deal with two main issues, which are only two issues in a multitude of matters that this bill deals with. I'm here today, through you, Madam Speaker, to deal with the issue of illegal quarrying and the liberalization of the fuel market of Trinidad and Tobago. And to start with the fuel liberalization, Madam Speaker, quite contrary to the submissions made by the member previous to me, and all of the shenanigans and all of the theatrics and the drama, it is doing absolutely none of what he just suggested. The liberalization of the fuel markets was put forward by the government in the budget speech of the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin North East, the Minister of Finance, in his budget statement in October of 2020. And what it is a policy decision by the government, some may argue that is long overdue, to move the whole fuel market at the pump. So let's start off by that. What we're dealing with here is diesel, super, and premium unleaded fuels at the pump, and to move away and to liberalize the market. And what I'm going to do is, as briefly as I can, Madam Speaker, explain this concept in layman's terms so that the population understand what it is. And it is not a taxation effort. It definitely is not a taxation effort, as was suggested by the previous speaker, as is usual, an attempt to mislead the population. The first thing this policy does, Madam Speaker, is it removes fixed retail margins. So as anyone who has traveled to the more developed countries of the world, let's use the United States as an example, the UK as another example, and many other countries, what we're doing for the first time is we're allowing at the pumps, the retailers, to move their prices. That is only going to be allowed to take place once a month. At the beginning of the month, the Ministry of Energy will put out circulars saying these are the prices and the ranges within which fuel can be sold at the pump with respect to super, premium, and diesel. I'm going to put at the outset right here, Madam Speaker, that we're maintaining the price of LPG, we're maintaining the price of CNG, and what we're dealing with is the super gasoline, premium gasoline, and diesel gasoline. We're going to keep wholesale margins fixed, Madam Speaker. We're also going to allow ourselves to apply an appropriate but reasonable tax to compensate for the fuel surplus. This is a fuel surplus, so there's not going to be a taxation as such. And I will get to what the policy is a short while, that when it crosses, because it's linked to oil, when we cross US $65 a barrel of oil on the world market, there's not going to be any fuel levy. Also, I'd like to put the population on notice, Madam Speaker, that the Minister of Energy, after consultation with the Minister of Finance, will have a decision to make as to whether to apply a fuel levy at all. So it is something that will remain within our discretion. Every month, the Ministry of Energy will post the wholesale market-based price of premium gasoline, super gasoline, and diesel on the first day of each month, Madam Speaker. And what this is going to be based on is the calculation of certain prices. So currently it's calculated on an ex-terminal price. We're really going to be moving away from that. And to jump into the formula so that the population can understand how prices are going to be set, Madam Speaker, on a monthly basis, there is a retail price and the retail margin. The retail price and the retail margin would no longer be fixed for premium gasoline, super gasoline, and diesel, while the gross wholesale margin for all petroleum products will continue to be fixed. So the government will maintain, as I'll get into, a level of control over what the dealers may do at the pump. There will be an introduction or the concept of a fuel levy that I just said a short while ago will remain within our discretion. The wholesale price will continue to be computed and published by the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries on a monthly basis. The proposed build-up price for this liberalized environment. The retail margin will be determined by the retailers for each fuel station. And this is really where the population will be affected. So what we're going to allow the retailers of fuel now to do, that is the NP and the Unipet stations, is they can determine within a fixed formula what is the charge they're going to charge at the pump. So contrary to what was said by the previous speaker, it is not a monopoly. It is not a monopoly, and also persons will be allowed to see some price fluctuation. If prices, world gasoline, oil prices go down, the persons at the pump, we the consumers, will be able to get the benefit of that. If prices go up, the government is maintaining in there an opportunity, a buffer for us to be able to protect the population from high prices if we so determine. So the retail margin will be determined by the retailers for each fuel station and can be varied only once on a monthly basis. The wholesale price will be computed monthly by the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries as follows. The wholesale price will be the ex-terminal price plus the gross wholesale margin and the fuel levy if we apply a fuel levy. The new wholesale price, including VAT, will be the price published by the Ministry of Energy, as I said, on the first day of each month. The fuel levy was created, as advised by the Ministry of Finance, as a means to maintain a stream of revenue to government in a liberalized environment to be equal to the surplus on petroleum products that may have been generated in a subsidized environment. The fuel levy is expected to be paid. This is important. The fuel levy is going to be paid by National Petroleum and Unipet based on the volumes of petroleum products sold for the month. So they are the persons who will pay the fuel levy. And the way the fuel levy will be applied, Madam Speaker, is it will be fixed. When the oil price is below $45 a barrel, it will be equal to the surplus that is generated at that level. Between $45 a barrel and 65, we will vary it according to a schedule. Once the price of oil is above $65 a barrel, Madam Speaker, there will be no fuel levy charged. Madam Speaker, in order to minimize price fluctuations and to protect the end consumers of premium gasoline, super gasoline, and diesel, a retail margin ceiling will be set by the government. What that means to the persons purchasing fuel for their vehicles is do not fear. We are going to still protect the population by setting a maximum level for that fluctuation at the pump of the margin that a retailer can sell fuel to. The retailer is purchasing the fuel from the NP and the Unipet, who in turn would have purchased their fuel from Paria, who is going to import this fuel. Along the way, everybody puts on their margin until it gets to the person purchasing fuel for their car at the pump. The retail margin ceilings for each petroleum product will be equal to a 50% increase in the current retail margins as shown in a schedule that we have. It is believed that these retail margin ceilings are high enough to allow for price competition during an initial stage. So what we expect to see is different gas stations selling fuel at different prices, but within a band, and consumers will be able to get the benefit of the fluctuating oil prices on the global market, and also, hopefully, the benefit of competition by the various gas station owners. These retail margin ceilings can be revised by the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries and the Ministry of Finance as necessary as we monitor on a monthly basis how we see the market players behaving after implementation. The Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries has built out the system, and we will be able to publish on the first of every month what persons can expect the retail margins to be at, and that will be published at the first of every month, by the first of every month, and we will have the necessary calculations. As I said, the retail price of LPG to end consumers will continue to be fixed at TT $1.05 per pound. Madam Speaker, may I inquire of you how much when... I can't see that from here. Thank you very much. The age of my eyes, Leader of the House, I couldn't see from here. Thank you. So, Madam Speaker, that is the breakdown of how we intend to liberalize the fuel market for the population. So there is no need for the fear, the attempts to generate fear and to have people outside there and our population think that the government is coming to increase prices at the pump and to throw all of this pain and burden on persons. Absolute rubbish, Madam Speaker. What we're doing is publishing here a formula where people can see in advance. And importantly, lest the point be missed that the Minister of Finance made, we are not doing this until we take a conscious decision to implement it. We're putting in place the law now. The Minister of Energy maintains an opportunity inside of there as to when it should be implemented. Also the application of the fuel levy, which is the taxation that we heard a lot of screaming about before. But really, once we liberalize, we expect the market, the persons like you and me, Madam Speaker, getting gas at the pump, to be able to get the benefits of the fluctuation of prices on the global market. The second point that I've come here to deal with today, that is a scourge. It really is a scourge on every law-abiding citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, is illegal quarrying. Despite all of the nuances and all of the contribution and the misinformation from the member before, we did not see them take any action when they had a constitutional majority to deal with illegal quarrying. In fact, the evidence is that illegal quarrying increased and took off during that time of government between 2010 and 2015. What you're seeing here today and what the population is seeing here today is the first stage by this government via legislation to tackle this issue of illegal quarrying. And it's going to come under the Ministry of Energy. We're putting in place a team, as I indicated when I first got assigned to that portfolio, and we're going to be tackling the scourge of illegal quarrying. What we heard no one mention previous today is what this act is now doing. Immediately, we're making amendments to the State Lands Act, as well as the Minerals Act, to increase the fines by 200%, to hit the pockets of those who may engage in illegal quarrying. That's the first step. We've also increased substantially the penalties, the sentencing time that are attracted in these fines of illegal quarrying. But importantly, and I heard no mention of it before, and the reason is that it may be hitting the pockets of some close on the other side, that what we're doing for the first time today is with respect to State Lands Act as well as the Minerals Act, we're inserting legislation clauses that say, firstly, a new 30A under the State Lands Act, that any person, a person who knowingly trades in or uses material which is dug, won, or removed from state lands in contravention of this act is disqualified from engaging in construction projects funded by the government. That is a massive step in the right direction. So in other words, we're saying government projects will not use the illegal aggregate that is gotten from illegal quarrying on state land. That is a massive step in the right direction. So government contracts and government projects will not use any material from illegal quarrying. And we're making that illegal for the first time. This is just the first step in how we plan to tackle illegal quarrying. I can project now to the population that in conversation with the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, we are going to be coming with further legislation to deal with illegal activity that takes place in illegal quarrying and persons who right now are using some of the nuances of the legislation to escape the full brunt of the law. Similarly, being done in the Minerals Act, because of course what I just quoted is dealing with state land. We recognize that it can also take place outside of state land. We're saying now a new 47A in the Minerals Act that a person who knowingly trades in or uses a mineral which is explored for, mined, processed, imported, exported, extracted, or purchased in contravention of this act is disqualified from engaging in construction projects funded by the government. So for the first time, you have a government taking the step of saying, we are not going to utilize the product of illegal quarrying in government-funded projects or in government construction projects. That point should not be missed by the population. We are very aware of the illegal criminal activity associated with illegal quarrying, and this government is committed to dealing with it as best as we can. What I can say as the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, within the past few weeks, I have actually done an aerial survey of what has happened on our north coast, the east-west corridor, and seen firsthand the type of activity that has taken place, and I'm putting people on notice. Do not think that we come from the roadside where what they've done is along the roadside you can see absolutely no illegal quarrying, and they start 300 meters beyond the pine trees, etc. So let the criminals be aware that we are coming after the illegal quarrying and illegal ill-gotten gains, and this is the first step via legislative means of tackling that. Madam Speaker, there was not much said at all. It was a lot of rhetoric by the Speaker previous to me. I was listening, taking notes as to whether there was anything that needed to be addressed. I couldn't pick up anything. I don't know if my colleague, the Minister of Finance, in his wrap-up may struggle to find something to respond to there, but I couldn't find it. I wanted to say that the petroleum levy is not another tax. In fact, that is to deal with the surplus that may be derived. This concept of the screaming about the borrowing, borrowing, borrowing. There's one thing I'd like to just touch on, as I heard it mentioned over and over, that government has not been able to successfully prosecute a single person for illegal quarrying. That's not true. So to come and just throw these things on the record. Secondly, it's not the government that prosecutes. Sometimes I wish that our legislation allowed the government to prosecute. Prosecution is in the hands of the police service and in the hands of the DPP. We provide them with all of the necessary resources that they need. And it is simply not true to say it's the government. Also, this cry that I heard over and over, the government failed to implement. It's not a failure to implement. There sometimes may be a fall along by those who are in charge of enforcing the law. The government is there to support them. I'm putting persons on notice once again, Madam Speaker, through you, that the scourge of the illegal quarrying, that criminal activity, this is the first signal via legislation that we're going after it hard. I'm also telling the population, do not think for a moment, Madam Speaker, that the government is not aware of the difficulties that the population are feeling out there. We are very aware. We are conscious of it. I heard the previous speaker say that the Minister of Finance should have come here today and opened the construction. That's not for the Minister of Finance. And in fact, he knows, as the rest of the population do, that the Prime Minister indicated and signaled that working along with the health professionals, that is something that's under consideration. I'm sure tomorrow the Prime Minister will address us on that. So what I'm asking the population to do is to stay calm. We are very aware of the difficulties that are taking place. There is nothing in this legislation here today that is driven to make it any more difficult for the population. In fact, it is the exact opposite with respect to the amnesties. The amnesties are there to ease persons up so that they're not attracting penalties, interest, and an escalation on the amounts that they may owe the government. So it's the exact opposite. And let the population, through you, Madam Speaker, take note of the constant dog whistling, the constant attempts to create fear, to create panic, and to create this concept of complete destruction that always comes from those on the other side. Madam Speaker, with those few words, I thank you for the opportunity to have joined the debate.
Member for Tabakit.